What would you do if, on your daughter's 12th birthday, one single guest turned the entire day upside down? Imagine this: a trip you've planned for years, a tradition that shaped your child's life, and suddenly, everything feels like it's about to unravel. That was me. A father who thought he had it all figured out: rules, structure, joy, and safety. And yet, when one child refused to play along, I found myself standing at a crossroads. Do I sacrifice the memories my daughter had been dreaming of, or do I risk being labeled as the bad guy by another parent? This is not just a story about a birthday. It's a story about parenting, boundaries, and the impossible choices we sometimes face when raising kids. So, let me take you back to where it all began. I live about an hour outside of New York City. Not too far that it feels unreachable, but far enough that whenever we go, it feels like stepping into another world. I've always loved that balance. Out here in the suburbs, we have quiet nights, yards, the comfort of familiarity. But just down the train tracks, there's the chaos, the electricity, and the pulse of Manhattan. For years, I made it a point to share both with my daughter when she was little. Maybe 5 or 6, Saturdays were our sacred time. Just the two of us. We'd wake up early, pack a small bag, and head to the train station. She'd carry her own little backpack, pink, with cartoon animals on it tanned. Inside, she'd tuck snacks, a water bottle, maybe a small notebook to doodle in. I'd bring the Metro card, a backup umbrella, and my wallet. That was it. We traveled light because I wanted her to feel what it meant to move through the city unburdened but prepared. I used to tell her, New York rewards the ones who are ready, ready to walk, ready to wait, ready to look around instead of down at a screen. And that became our mantra. We had rules. Simple but effective. She always carried her own things. No matter what. If she wanted to bring a toy, a book, or a camera, it went in her bag, not mine. If she wanted to explore, she had to keep pace. If her legs got tired, she learned that resting was part of the day. But quitting wasn't. We also had a rule about phones and screens. She didn't have a phone at first, of course, but even when I gave her a hand-me-down later on, I insisted. The phone was for safety, for checking in, for emergencies, not for hiding behind. In the city, life was happening in every corner: street musicians, shop windows, dogs in sweaters, food carts steaming on cold days. Why waste that staring at pixels? And she got it. She loved it, actually. Some of our best memories are of just walking. Once, when she was about 7, we wandered into Central Park in the fall. The leaves were orange and gold, carpeting the paths, and she spent an hour just chasing after squirrels. Another time, she saw a breakdancer in Union Square and tried copying his moves right there on the pavement, making a small circle of strangers laugh and clap for her. That was the magic. The city wasn't just a place to visit, it was a stage, a playground, a living classroom. By the time she turned 10, she started inviting a friend or two along, and I welcomed it. Parenting, at least for me, wasn't just about protecting my daughter from the world. It was about equipping her to move through it with kindness, courage, and responsibility. Bringing friends meant more responsibility. It meant talking to other parents, explaining my rules of the trip. I'd always say the same thing. Your kid needs to carry their own bag. There's a lot of walking, sometimes 45 minutes or more. Snacks are essential. Phones are okay, but I encourage activities that don't involve screens. And most importantly, they stick together. nobody wanders off. This isn't a chauffeured tour. This is a city adventure. Most parents appreciated that. Some even said they admired the structure. The kids adapted to. The regulars, two of my daughter's longtime friends, knew the drill by heart. They packed their backpacks, wore good shoes, and came ready to move. They were like little explorers, eager to see what the city would throw at them that day. And that brings me to the birthday, 12 years old. It's a special age, isn't it? Not quite a teenager, but no longer a child. There's this in-between space where everything feels possible, where friendships matter more than toys, where independence starts to bloom but still needs guidance. My daughter told me weeks in advance that she didn't want a typical party. No balloons in the backyard, no bowling alley gathering, no roller skating rink with sheet cake. She wanted the city, her city. She wanted to show her friends the places she loved most. The bookstore near Bryant Park, the little bakery with cupcakes that tasted like heaven, the street performers in Times Square. Maybe even a Broadway show if we could manage tickets. She wanted dinner, real dinner, in a restaurant where they could feel grown up. She wanted laughter, photos, inside jokes that would last long after the night was over. I was proud of her for that, for choosing experiences over presents, for wanting to share her joy with others. So we planned it. My mother, her grandmother, helped me secure tickets for a show, a matinee that would stretch into the evening, giving us plenty of time for dinner before curtain call. We mapped out the train schedule, made a list of must-see spots, and I did what I always do, called the parents. Two of the mums already knew the routine. They nodded along, said, "Of course, we'll make sure they're ready." But then there was Leah. Leah was new. A friend my daughter had met more recently, someone who hadn't been on these city trips before. I didn't know much about her, other than that she seemed quiet, shy maybe, a little different. That wasn't a problem. I actually liked introducing new kids to the adventure. Sometimes they were amazed. Sometimes they discovered they loved the walking, the chaos, the serendipity. So I called her Mum. I explained the rules, just like I always did. There will be a lot of walking, 45 minutes or more sometimes. Make sure Leah has comfortable shoes. She'll need her own backpack with snacks and a water bottle. The train ride can get long and the signal's spotty, so if she has a phone, maybe pack something for her to do without it. We'll stick together and I'll keep everyone safe, but I want the kids to be prepared. Her mum sounded enthusiastic, almost too enthusiastic. Oh, Leah's going to love it. She's been wanting to see more of the city. Don't worry, she'll be fine. I hung up feeling reassured, but looking back, that phone call was the first sign. Part 1b. The calm before the storm. The week leading up to the birthday trip felt electric in our house. My daughter counted down each morning, crossing off days on the calendar with a thick black marker. She kept reminding me of the little details. "Dad, remember, we have to stop by the cupcake shop first. Or don't forget, we need extra time for the bookstore because Mia always takes forever to decide which one to buy." I loved her enthusiasm. There's something about seeing your child take ownership of an event, making plans, thinking about her friends, imagining the day that makes you proud. She wasn't asking for presents. She wasn't begging for the latest gadget. She just wanted an adventure, something memorable. I tried to match her energy, though as a parent, your mind always goes to logistics. I double-checked train times. I bought extra metro. I scoped out restaurants online, making sure there was something on the menu for picky eaters. And of course, I made sure my mother, who had been a part of so many of our trips, was on board. Having her with us meant more support, more laughter, and let's be honest, someone to share the stress if things didn't go smoothly. The night before, I laid everything out like I always did. My daughter's bag, my bag, a small pouch with band-aids, hand sanitizer, and tissues. New York may be glamorous in the postcards, but anyone who's actually spent a day there knows the truth. Your feet hurt, your hands get dirty, and unexpected scrapes and spills happen. Preparation is survival. My daughter packed her backpack carefully, too. Snacks, a water bottle, her phone, a small wallet with a few dollars of her own. And because she was 12 now, a tiny notebook where she wrote birthday adventures on the first page in bubbly letters. She was ready. I went to bed feeling confident. The next morning, the house buzzed with nervous energy. She woke up before her alarm, dressed in her favorite jeans and a shirt that said NYC Vibes Only. She braided her hair herself and asked me twice if I thought it looked good. I told her she looked amazing, because she did. The doorbell rang just after 9. The first two girls arrived together, Mia and Sophie, the veterans. They came bouncing in with their backpacks, already chattering about the city, about cupcakes, about Broadway. They knew the rhythm of these trips. I didn't even have to remind them about the rules. They'd internalized them, and then Leah arrived. She stood at the door, holding nothing but her phone in one hand and a small purse slung over her shoulder. No backpack, no water bottle, no sneakers. She wore little flat shoes that looked more suited for a school dance than for miles of concrete sidewalks. I remember the look on my daughter's face. A flash of concern, then a polite smile as she greeted her friend. I felt my stomach sink a little, but I told myself not to judge too quickly. Maybe Leah had a bag in the car. Maybe her mum had packed snacks separately. Her mum waved from the driveway, all smiles, and shouted, "Have fun, girls," before driving off. Don't know bag. I reminded Leah gently, "It's going to be a long day, lots of walking. Did you bring a water bottle or some snacks for the train?" She looked at me blankly. "No," my mum said, "I didn't need to. I've got my phone." That answer, it unsettled me. But what could I do? We were already on a schedule. I couldn't send her back inside to repack. And besides, I had extra snacks, extra water. I could make it work. So we headed to the station. On the platform, the girls were buzzing with excitement, snapping photos, giggling about inside jokes. My daughter stood close to Leah, trying to pull her into the energy. But Leah seemed distant. She kept glancing at her phone, swiping, frowning at the lack of signal bars. Once on the train, the dynamic became clearer. Mia and Sophie pulled out a deck of cards they always brought. My daughter grabbed her notebook and started sketching silly doodles of the train conductor, making her friends laugh. Leah sat by the window, scrolling, sighing when the internet cut out. I tried to engage her. "Hey Leah, do you like drawing? Or maybe we can play a game together." She didn't look up. "I'm fine." Those two words, "I'm fine," are the most misleading in the English language, because she wasn't fine. Not at all, and deep down, I think I knew this was only the beginning. The train ride stretched on, about an hour of rattling tracks, occasional announcements, and the smell of coffee from other commuters. The veterans handled it well, as always. They were used to it, even amused by the quirks, the graffiti outside, the people watching opportunities. My daughter leaned into the experience, soaking up every moment. But Leah remained in her bubble, arms crossed, eyes glued to her phone. I caught my mother's eye across the aisle. She raised an eyebrow, silently asking the same question I was asking myself. Is she going to make it through the day like this? We arrived at Penn Station right on time. The chaos of New York hit us immediately, the crowd, the noise, the smell of bagels and pretzels mixed with subway grime. For me, it was familiar. For my daughter and her friends, it was exciting. For Leah, it was overwhelming. She wrinkled her nose, tugged at her shirt, and said the first words she'd spoken since the train. "Can we just take a taxi? This is gross." I crouched a little to meet her eyes. "Leah, that's not how we do this. We walk. That's part of the fun. You'll get used to it." She rolled her eyes. And just like that, the city adventure had officially begun, not with laughter, but with resistance. Asterisk. I've taken kids into the city countless times. My daughter knows the rhythm of these trips like the back of her hand. You get on the train, you settle in, maybe play a card game, maybe chat, maybe just look out the window as the suburbs blur into graffiti-covered walls and skyscrapers in the distance. It's all part of the ritual. But this time, something was different. From the very first mile, Leah sat stiffly in her seat, arms crossed, eyes glued to her phone. The train rattled along, the signal faded in and out like it always does, and each time it cut out, Leah would groan loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ugh, I can't get any bars. This is so boring. How long is this ride again?" The other girls exchanged quick glances, the kind of glances kids give when they know one of them is breaking the unspoken rules. My daughter leaned over, trying to smooth things out. "It's about an hour. Don't worry, it goes fast. We usually play Would You Rather or Do you want to join?" But Leah didn't even look up. "Nah, I'll just wait till I get service again." There was a pause, heavy and awkward. My daughter and her two longtime friends shrugged at each other and went back to their game, tossing silly questions back and forth, laughing at inside jokes. Leah sat apart, isolating herself, tapping her phone screen like she could will it back to life. I tried not to intervene. 12-year-old girls, they have to work these things out. Still, I kept an eye on her. Something about the way she huffed every few minutes, the way her knee bounced in irritation, told me this was going to be a long day. By the time we pulled into Grand Central, the girls were buzzing with excitement. They knew the drill: grab your bag, stick together, follow the plan. But Leah, she had no bag, no snacks, no water, nothing. Just her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. We stepped out into the chaos of Manhattan. The echo of voices bouncing off marble, the rush of commuters surging toward exits, the smell of pretzels and roasted nuts drifting from a vendor's cart. My daughter grinned from ear to ear. This was her playground. But Leah wrinkled her nose. "It's so loud. Can't we just Uber to the restaurant?" I felt a tiny spark of irritation, but I kept my voice calm. Part of the fun is walking. Trust me, you'll see things you'd never notice from a taxi window. My daughter chimed in, cheerful as ever. "Yeah, Leah, we usually walk a lot. That's kind of the point." But Leah groaned again, dragging her feet behind the group like each step was torture. We made our way through the streets, weaving past tourists, clutching maps and locals striding with purpose. The city was alive, the rumble of buses, the honking of taxis, the chatter of 1,000 conversations colliding at once. For me, it was invigorating. For the girls, it was freedom. For Leah, it was misery. My feet hurt. "Why can't we just take a cab?" I stopped, crouched a little so I was at her eye level. "Leah, listen. We always walk. That's the rule. It's how we explore. We'll pace ourselves. We'll stop for snacks. But no taxis unless there's an emergency." "Okay," she sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. Whatever. The word stung, not because it was rude, but because of what it implied. Disengagement, rejection, a refusal to even try. As the afternoon wore on, her complaints piled up. Each block felt like a new battlefield. While my daughter and her friends darted into shops, pointing out silly souvenirs or marveling at displays, Leah hung back, arms folded. When I offered her a bottle of water, she barely took a sip. When I bought pretzels for everyone, she shrugged. Uninterested, I even tried to pitch the subway as an adventure kids usually love the thrill of descending underground. The rush of the trains, the sheer novelty of it. But Leah shook her head fiercely. "No way, it smells gross. I'm not getting on that thing." So we walked, and with each step, my patience thinned by the time we reached the restaurant for dinner. I felt like I'd been negotiating a peace treaty all day. The place was cozy, with a menu broad enough to satisfy picky eaters. My daughter and her friends were practically glowing, recounting their favorite parts of the day so far, already buzzing about the show we'd see later. But Leah slouched in her chair, scowling at the menu like it had personally offended her. "Do we have to eat here?" "I don't like anything." I leaned in, speaking softly. "Leah, is something wrong? Are you feeling sick? Homesick, maybe?" Her answer was blunt, flat. "No, I'm just bored. This whole thing is boring. I want to go home." That's when I knew we had a real problem. I excused us from the table and stepped aside with her. "Leah, listen. We planned this whole day for my daughter's birthday. We're not cutting it short. If you're really miserable, you can call your mum. She can come pick you up, or maybe your dad. But we're staying until after the show." Her eyes narrowed, lips pursed. She didn't like the answer, but she pulled out her phone anyway. I gave her space as she called home, her voice pitched high with frustration. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I could imagine the pleading, the complaints, the one-sided story of how awful this day had been. When she hung up, her face was set in stone. "My mum says you have to take me home." And just like that, the weight of the situation dropped squarely onto my shoulders. Leah's words hit the table like a dropped glass. "My mum says you have to take me home." The other girls froze, mid-giggle, forks suspended over their plates. My daughter's smile faltered. She looked at me, eyes wide, silently asking, "Is this really happening?" I kept my voice calm, measured. "Leah, I spoke to your mum before this trip. I explained the plan, the walking, the schedule. She agreed. We're not leaving the city until after the show. If she wants you home earlier, she or your dad will need to pick you up." Leah huffed, flipping her hair with all the theatrical indignation of a 12-year-old who thinks the universe has conspired against her. She said, "You're responsible. You brought me here, so you should take me back." That's when I realized the evening wasn't just about managing Leah anymore. It was about managing her parents too. I stepped outside the restaurant to call her mum directly. The city hummed around me, honking taxis, a saxophone player under the street lamp. the chatter of people spilling onto the sidewalks for dinner. And there I was, phone pressed to my ear, trying to keep my voice even. "Hi, it's me. I just wanted to clarify, we're not leaving Manhattan until after the show. If Leah needs to go home, maybe you or her dad could come pick her up." Her tone shifted immediately, from cheerful small talk we'd shared earlier in the week to sharp and defensive. "I thought you were supervising. If she's unhappy, isn't it your job to bring her back?" I took a breath, steady. "I am supervising. But I also have 3 other kids here, including my daughter. It's her birthday celebration. I can't cut it short for everyone because Leah's not enjoying herself. I'm more than willing to meet you halfway if you can arrange a pickup." Silence stretched on the line. Then came the sigh. "I don't want to pay for a train ticket. And traffic into the city is awful right now. Isn't there another way?" I stared at the neon glow of the theater marquee down the block, the place my daughter had been talking about for weeks. "I'm sorry, but we're staying. If Leah needs to go home, one of you will have to get her." Back inside, I slid into my seat. My daughter's friends were trying, awkwardly, to keep the mood like passing fries, whispering little jokes, but Leah sat rigid, arms crossed, glaring at the table like it had betrayed her. Then her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, muttered something under her breath, and shoved it toward me. "My dad's on his way." I nodded. "Good, we'll meet him before the show." But Leah didn't relax. She sulked, every bite of food a performance of misery. She sighed dramatically, muttered about how long it would take, complained about the noise of the restaurant. My mother leaned over to me, quietly. "Don't let it ruin the night for the others. Focus on your girl. She deserves this." And she was right still. I couldn't help watching Leah across the table, her jaw tight, her eyes flicking from her plate to her phone. It wasn't just irritation, anymore it was resentment, pure and simple. And I wondered how much of it was hers, and how much of it came from her parents' voices echoing in her ear. The other girls whispered among themselves. I caught fragments. "She's always like this at school. I told you she wouldn't like it." My daughter shot them a look, protective, a silent plea not to gang up. That was who she was, loyal, even when someone was making her special day harder than it needed to be. Dinner crawled by. The food arrived: pasta burgers, little plates of appetizers meant for sharing. The birthday girl laughed again, forcing brightness into the air, and I went along with it. But Leah didn't touch her plate. Instead, she texted furiously under the table, thumbs flying like she was drafting a manifesto against injustice. Every so often, she'd mutter, "This is the worst birthday party ever," and I'd swallow the retort rising in my throat, because what good would it do? By the time dessert came, one candle, a slice of chocolate cake, my daughter's smile was real again. Her friends sang softly, laughing when the flame flickered out. My mother clapped, proud, snapping a photo with her phone. Leah. She stared at the cake like it was poison. I leaned toward her, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Leah, I get it. This isn't what you expected. But sometimes, when you're with a group, it's not all about you. Tonight is about celebrating my daughter. Can you try for just an hour more to make it easier?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't answer, and that's when her dad called. The phone buzzed. She answered, and after a short clipped exchange, she shoved it toward me again. "He's downstairs." Relief washed over me, mixed with a trace of guilt. Relief, because soon the tension would lift. Guilt, because part of me wondered if I'd failed not Leah, but my own daughter, for letting this shadow fall across her special day. I glanced at my girl, who was busy showing her friends the goofy photo on Grandma's phone, her laughter spilling like sunlight. No, she was okay. She was stronger than I gave her credit for. We paid the bill, gathered our things, and walked Leah to the curb. Her father's car idled there, headlights cutting through the evening haze. He leaned across the seat, waving. Leah climbed in without so much as a goodbye. Her dad nodded at me, neutral, unreadable. Thanks for letting her call. I'll take it from here. And then they were gone, taillights disappearing into the Manhattan night. I exhaled, tension melting off my shoulders. The city felt lighter, brighter, freer. My daughter squeezed my hand. Now we can really celebrate. And for the first time all day, I believed it. The instant Leah's father's car merged into traffic, the night felt different. It wasn't just me, everyone sensed it. The tension that had shadowed us all afternoon lifted. Like smoke blown away by a fresh breeze, the girls erupted into relieved laughter. Not cruel, not mocking, just the kind of laughter that comes when a storm finally passes. My daughter's smile widened, stretching ear to ear. She squeezed my hand. Now we can really celebrate. Her friends nodded eagerly, their voices bubbling with energy. For the first time all day, their excitement didn't have to be muted, trimmed down to avoid setting off another complaint. My mother, always the quiet observer, leaned in with a knowing look. You did the right thing. Don't second-guess yourself. Tonight belongs to her. And for the first time in hours, I believed it. We stepped back into the pulse of Manhattan. Neon lights flashed overhead. Street performers drummed on plastic buckets, their rhythms echoing against skyscrapers. The crowd surged in every direction, tourists snapping photos, locals weaving past like dancers in a crowded waltz. The girls wanted to see everything at once. They darted into souvenir shops, laughing at INY t-shirts in sizes too big for them, trying on novelty sunglasses, snapping pictures of each other in front of store windows at Times Square. The billboards towered like glowing guardians. Animated ads washed the night in bright blues and reds, making the whole scene feel like daylight at midnight. My daughter gasped as she spotted a massive digital poster for a movie she'd been counting down to see. Dad, look. It's coming out next month. Her joy was infectious. I found myself grinning, watching her excitement bloom in ways Leah had smothered earlier. We stopped at the M&M's store, 3 stories of chocolate chaos. The girls ran wild, filling little bags with candies of every color. My mother and I exchanged an amused glance. This pure, silly joy was what childhood was supposed to feel like. For once, I wasn't balancing complaints or mediating arguments. I was just watching them shine. By the time we reached the theater, the girls were vibrating with anticipation. The marquee lights sparkled overhead, each bulb a tiny star against the night sky dot inside. The red velvet seats creaked as we settled in. The girls clutched their playbills like treasures, whispering about what the show might be like. My daughter's eyes glowed in the dim light, wide with wonder. Then the lights dimmed. The curtain rose. For 2 hours, the world transformed. Music soared, voices carried through the rafters, and the stage became a portal. The girls gasped at every scene change, every clever moment of choreography. I stole glances at my daughter throughout, memorizing her expression, pure awe, pure joy. She leaned forward in her seat, clapping until her hands turned red, laughing at the jokes, tearing up at the tender moments. This was what she had dreamed of. Not taxis, not sulking, not drama. This, when the final number ended and the cast took their bows, the applause thundered through the theatre. My daughter leapt to her feet, shouting for an encore. Her friends followed, their voices shrill with happiness. I clapped too, but softer. I wasn't watching the stage anymore. I was watching her. And I knew, no matter what fallout waited tomorrow, this moment had been worth it. We spilled back into the city streets, still humming the songs, laughter echoing against the buildings. The night was alive, steam rising from manholes, taxis honking, the smell of roasted nuts curling through the air. The girls begged for dessert, so we ducked into a diner glowing under neon lights. They ordered milkshakes, giggling so loudly the waitress shook her head with a smile. My daughter leaned back, chocolate mustache across her grin, and sighed, "Best birthday ever." Those 3 words hit me like a bomb, soothing every doubt, every frustration. Later, on the train ride home, exhaustion settled in. The girls slumped against each other, giggles fading to sleepy murmurs. My mother dozed beside me, her breathing steady. I stared out the window as the city shrank into darkness, my thoughts circling. I had protected this night. I had chosen my daughter over convenience, over appeasement. I gave her a memory she'd carry for years, but I also knew out there, in another house, Leah was telling her version of the story. A version where I was the villain. A version her mother would carry like a torch. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass and closed my eyes. Tonight, I had one. But tomorrow was waiting. The very next morning, the phone buzzed. Not once, not twice. Twice texts, calls, notifications lighting up my screen like fireworks. At first, I thought maybe it was the girls still riding high off the trip, sharing photos, laughing over inside jokes. But no, the messages weren't from them. They were from other parents. "Hey, just checking in. Heard something about last night. Is it true you left Leia stranded in the city? What actually happened?" The pit in my stomach grew heavier with every ding of the phone. The whisper unforgiving, relentless, had already begun. Part 3, be Leah's mother's version, by noon. I knew the story Leah's mother was telling in her version. I had dragged Leah into the city without warning her what it would be like. I had ignored her distress. I had refused to bring her home when she begged, leaving her abandoned until her father had no choice but to swoop in like the hero Dot in her version. I wasn't just inconsiderate. I was irresponsible, reckless, and worst of all, untrustworthy. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee growing cold in my mug, rereading the texts. The sting wasn't just that I was being criticized. It was how easily the truth could be twisted, how quickly one narrative could outpace the other. My daughter padded into the kitchen, still in her pajamas, hair tangled from sleep. She spotted the look on my face. "Dad, what's wrong?" I forced a smile, slid the phone out of sight. "Nothing. Just parent stuff. Don't worry." But inside, I was seething. Part 3, see the counterweight. By the afternoon, the tide began to turn. Other parents called not to accuse, but to reassure. "Listen, we heard Leah's mum talking, but honestly, you did the right thing. If it were my kid, I wouldn't expect you to derail the whole trip. Kids have to adapt sometimes. That's life." One mother even laughed. If she couldn't handle walking in New York, maybe she wasn't ready for New York. Relief washed over me. Not because I needed to be liked, but because I needed to know I wasn't crazy. That my choice, the harder choice, the one that put my daughter's happiness above avoiding conflict, hadn't been wrong. But even as the support trickled in, the damage lingered. Leah's mother wasn't letting it go. She pulled Leah from future playdates. She cut off communication. And in the invisible but ever-present politics of parenting circles, she cast me as the villain that night. After my daughter went to bed, I sat in the quiet living room, replaying the whole saga in my head. Had I been too rigid? Should I have swallowed my pride and taken Leah home, even if it meant my daughter lost the night she'd been dreaming of? Or had I finally drawn a line, one that needed to be drawn? Parenting, I realized, isn't about pleasing everyone. It isn't about winning popularity contests in the PTA crowd, or bending over backward to shield kids from every ounce of discomfort. It's about teaching your children what matters: loyalty, resilience, the value of joy that isn't measured by convenience. Leah's mother could tell her story however she wanted, but I had mine. And more importantly, my daughter had hers. When she looked back on her 12th birthday, she wouldn't remember the complaints, the tension, the arguments. She'd remember the neon lights, the Broadway stage, the laughter spilling out of a diner booth at midnight. And in the end, that was the only story that mattered. At the end of the day, parenting isn't about keeping everyone happy. It's about standing by your child, even when others don't understand. That night in New York taught me something I'll never forget. Joy is fragile, and it deserves to be protected. When my daughter looks back, she won't remember the complaints, the arguments, or the gossip. She remembered the laughter under the city lights, the excitement of Broadway, and the feeling of being truly celebrated. Because being a parent isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give your child is the memory that you never let anyone take their happiness away.